I am so excited to be introducing you to this month's Top Music Sheets with Fanny Mendelssohn Hensel. This month's edition is a little bit different. So normally in Top Music Sheets, what we do is we bring you contemporary composers that we think you may not have explored before and give you a taste of their music so that you can find new great pieces for your students to use with your students in your studio. This month's composer is not contemporary. She's been around quite a while, hasn't she? Fanny Mendelssohn Hensel, or you may know her as just Fanny Mendelssohn or Fanny Hensel. There's been a big move in recent years towards including female composers in performances and in exam syllabi and lots of other places. And that's awesome. The only problem is we normally can't introduce these composers to our students until much later in their studies. So when they're early on in their studies, they meet old, dead men and contemporary women and men. But a lot of the female composers from history we can't introduce to our students because either they didn't write pedagogical literature or maybe it just got lost, but I haven't found much of it out there. And so a lot of their pieces are more virtuosic, they're at a much higher level. And for some reason, possibly because of trends, they don't tend to get arranged into earlier versions. So that's what I've decided to do in this Top Music Sheets. I've taken 3 pieces from Fanny and arranged them into 3 different levels. So every piece comes in 3 levels. Right from the beginning levels of literature you can use with your students all the way up to a little bit more late intermediate level. So I'm hoping that this is going to give you a chance to introduce Fanny to all of your students, and as with all Top Music Sheets editions, you're welcome to split this up. So if you want to print just some pieces for some students, or if you want to print it as a whole book, that's entirely up to you. And at the moment, if you're doing online lessons, we welcome you to send the file digitally to parents of students or students themselves within your studio so that they can print it at home or use it on their own iPad. So the 3 pieces that I've arranged here are Melody Opus 4, number 2, Sonata and G Minor, that's just the very start of the Sonata and G Minor, which is one of her most famous pieces, and a Waltz for 4 hands, which doesn't seem to get much attention at all, but is a really fun little piece. So the melody is the one that I've arranged into the easiest possible version. That one, I have actually done a version which includes both hands sitting beside each other on the keyboard. So this is how a lot of beginner music will be written in many method books. And I decided to include this version so that you can introduce Fanny to your absolute youngest and most beginner students. So that piece is in 6/8 and it does include that G sharp, so you might think, oh, a beginner can't handle that. They absolutely can. If you say T, ta, T, 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 there's nothing actually difficult about that rhythm at all. And the G sharp, you can introduce that and the left hand crossover at the very end by rote if needed, and it absolutely will work beautifully for your beginner students. So that's the first version of melody. I would call that a beginner level. And then we have the version 2, where it's probably an early intermediate level. The left hand is going to still move around quite a bit. If you're not familiar with the original of this, by the way, look it up. So it introduces the semi-quaver patterns which go between the 2 hands. Absolutely beautiful, but I've cut them out of these versions just to make it a bit more accessible. The original is marked as level 9 by Jane McGrath. in her Masterwork Classic series or in the Pianist's Guide to Standard Teaching and Performance Literature. She marks that at a level 9, which is equivalent to like an early advanced level or grade 8-ish piece. So it is quite challenging, absolutely beautiful and well worth learning. But at this earlier stage, what I've done is I've just kept the some of the harmonies as much interest as possible, but within a simple broken chord pattern that doesn't span more than a sixth, so that your students with small hands can still access version 2. And then in version 3, I have gone and spanned across more than an octave. You're going to need to work out the fingering carefully with your student so that they can do crossovers and stuff like that. It's great prep for, or just complementary work to a lot of Chopin pieces. But what I haven't done is brought in the semiquavers, so that is still left out of this, and there isn't the 2 different voices in the right hand, so it does take away some of that challenge. The next piece then is the Sonata in G Minor. Now this is just the very, very introduction of this piece, okay? It is a big, big piece to tackle, and it's one of her most famous that you may be familiar with already. In this first version of the introduction, what I've done is I've made the tremolo just a fifth in the left hand, and I've done that in versions 1 and 2, again to accommodate smaller hands. Another option, if you need to adapt this further, is just to repeat the low note. That would actually have a pretty good effect. I thought about doing that way, but I decided that since the right hand has to stay reasonably challenging, I can't make it really a true beginner version here with all the jumping around. I thought we might as well introduce that fifth as well. So it's a fifth in the left hand, and they're going to have the pedal down for that to make it fully agitated, as it says in the directions, and dramatic. And then the right hand, might be familiar with that melody. So I've just taken the melody in this first version. Don't be fooled though, it's not easy. It's still going to require a jumping around a great deal in the right hand. I haven't put any fingering into the right hand in this piece in any of the versions because it's going to be so dependent on your student's hand, and also because I think putting in the fingering is a great learning opportunity. So while I have notated some of the left hand in the patterns where it's pretty obvious what the fingering should be and what would be comfortable, I haven't done it in the right hand because it's going to vary so much, and because your student putting in their own fingering with your help is going to teach them a ton about the piece and going to help them work out the piece and get used to it. So I suggest you have them put that in and then practice all this jumping around. All of these pieces actually work great as a 3-part process. So even with a student who's going to learn maybe even the original of the sonata, the introduction, if you have them learn these 3, they'll get the melody into their ear, they'll get used to jumping around and finding their spots, and then they can progress on to version 2, which keeps the 5th in the left hand but introduces 2 note chords in the right hand, and then version 3, where they have 3 note chords, and the original is actually mostly 4 note chords, so it's quite a lot technically, and the 3 note chords in the version 3 that I have here will just give them that little bit of a more flavour and get them a stepping stone on their way to the original if that's where they want to go. Now in version 3 I have also brought in the octave. Feel free to cut that back down to a 5th or just that repeated note if your student's handspan is not there but everything else is. However, the chords are quite substantial in the right hand, so most likely if they can reach those, they can probably do that octave in the left hand at that stage. So that is the sonata in G minor. Now the last piece we have is this waltz, which seems to have been forgotten from most of the books out there, but it's a great piece. I really enjoyed it. The first version of this, it's just 1 note in each hand, still not incredibly simple. In the secundo part or the primo, there's going to be sharps, there's going to be things like that because it is minor and it needs them. But it is simplified to the point where actually quite a lot of students could tackle this at like a late beginner level for the version 1 of this. It's not that hard, especially the secundo part. Now, the primo part, I have split the melody between the hands. It's still not going to be super easy, but they are going to be able to sit beside each other. Now, as they sit beside each other, they're sort of crossing over like this, which might be unfamiliar for your student. But it is the easiest way to split this between two hands, and it's actually going to be pretty comfy to play just once they get used to that slightly odd positioning. But it's a great one to introduce your students again to Fanny and get them playing duets. I love having students play duets and play together as much as possible. Now, this one is in A minor originally, so I've kept it in A minor for all three versions, which means that if you want to play the secundo from version 3 with bigger chords, or even the original, and your student is playing the primo, the simplified primo, that'll work. Any of the different parts will work together, so you don't even have to stick to one version to make it fit together. Although you will have to cut out chunks if you're doing version 3, but I know you're well able to do that. So, this is obviously a duet, so if I demonstrate it for you, it's not going to be much use. So I have roped in Tim to play the secundo part, and I'm going to play the primo part so that you can see how these fit together. I hope you enjoy this and the whole volume, and we're going to play it out with that duet.